Our way to victory.
Good evening, this is Maestro Cretella with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Calderis Refinery. Our first player is Maestro Cretella as this Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is a disabling and debuffing hero. Depending on what weapon you get, she can fight in melee or ranged, has a lot of interesting tricks up her sleeve. People often complain about her. She's not very commonly played, but generally considered a very good hero. My opponent is Technocrat, also playing as the Imperial Guard Inquisitor. So we have a mirror match here. And I saw this happening as I was going into the game. I recently had a surge of motivation to play 1v1, and I've been starting to play Imperial Guard, just because I want to. That being said, I knew I wasn't quite prepared for an Imperial Guard mirror. Now, I'm not completely of the opinion that a mirror reflects who is the better player for that race or character if we're talking about a fighting game. In some sense, it's just another matchup with its own, basically just with its own just features and strategies and such. That being said, certainly with someone like Technocrat who actually plays Imperial Guard, as opposed to me who has a lot of general game knowledge but does not really play Imperial Guard, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here just because I just don't really have enough knowledge of Imperial Guard, period. I certainly have some knowledge, but there's only so much knowledge you can get out of knowing the game by studying it and by watching other people play Imperial Guard than you would get from out of actually playing that particular race. So I have gone with a standard Imperial Guard opening. I have 2 Guardsmen and 1 Sentinel. I am rushing forward a bit with my Inquisitor. Technocrat started out with the same build. He did have 2 Guardsmen and 1 Sentinel, but he also bought a 2nd Sentinel. So that's actually another... That's, like, again, another advantage of, kind of an advantage of experience that I think Technocrat has over me right here. Like, I mean, of course, you can obviously buy 2 Sentinels, but I didn't expect it. And I also I wasn't even sure what I was going to do about it. Lost one of my Guardsmen down to only the last member right there, and certainly 1 Sentinel cannot fight off 2 Sentinels. But I just wanted to talk a little bit more. So you can learn things by the book, you can learn things by reading it or by studying it, and you can also learn things by doing them. So I'm talking like the comparison, the difference between analytical and verbal learning things by reading about them, by being told about them, and then there's also experiential learning, which is learning by playing things, or playing or doing in the case of if we're talking about something that's not video games. I kind of have my Sentinel just standing around here waiting for my Guardsmen to come back out so they can actually support it. I certainly know that my Sentinel without Guardsman support can definitely not take on Technocrat's 2 Sentinels with Guardsman support. My Inquisitor has been upgraded with the Holy Brazier. I wanted that for the area of effect, damage, and debuffing ability that it has. Now, one of the disadvantages of that ability, as much as I like that ability, I'm not so sure how good it is in this matchup. I mean, certainly if you can get it off, that area of effect, damage, and debuffing is very nice. The issue is that, first of all, that ability actually has a very short casting range. I have no idea why it has such a short casting range, but it does. Maybe it's so that you're not just instantly putting fire on your enemies from, like, across the screen. That might be, maybe that would be a little too good. Actually, tanking in here, my Guardsmen are taking losses while his Guardsmen aren't. So this is, again, just another thing that Technocrat might be doing a little bit better than me, getting very close to losing a Guardsman squad. So I'm not really doing that well here. Technocrat is certainly maybe showing off a bit more of his knowledge. And again, I don't know if this necessarily I don't think a mirror necessarily reflects who is better with the race, although, I mean, that's definitely true in this case, just because I don't actually play the race, whereas Technocrat does. Oh, and I actually lost a guardsman squad, so unfortunately a loss for me. So I actually went for a heavy weapon team. Clearly, it's going to take some really magic micro for me to just try to win and fight when Technocrat has the same build as me, except with an additional Sentinel. Basically, if he just has what I have and more, he's definitely going to have a bit of an advantage. I actually chose to get a heavy weapon team instead of a second Sentinel, or instead of something else. And I chose that. Right now, it's actually bleeding me. I chose that in part because it fits better into my schema of what I've already learned. Right now, as someone who doesn't actually play Imperial Guard, I was not really confident in my ability to field 2 Sentinels and try to use that strategy against an actual Imperial Guard player who knows how to do that. So instead, I got that heavy weapon team. That heavy weapon team fits better into my schema. Basically, I know how to use a suppression team because I've spent most of my time playing this game, most of my roughly 1,000 hours playing either Space Marines, Chaos, or Eldar. All of those races have suppression teams, so using a suppression team is nothing foreign to me. Using a Sentinel is. Now, what I tried to do right there, but I actually messed up on, was I actually tried to stomp aggressively with my Sentinel. I did have a bit of a micro derp because I was trying to move my Sentinel near his guardsman, but then I accidentally clicked on his guardsman, and that made my Sentinel stop moving and start firing at them again. So it just stopped and started shooting. Sent my Inquisitor right here. I wanted to get some Holy Pyre off from behind on his units, but again, a misjudgment by me not really being an Imperial Guard player. I've been playing the Inquisitor. I have no idea why my guardsmen set up like that. I did not want them to do that. I've been playing the Inquisitor in part because I've been finding some similarities between her and the Sorcerer. And there were some ways that she's better, and also definitely some ways in which she's worse. One of the ways in which that she's worse is that she doesn't have as much long-range functionality. Obviously, the Sorcerer can do some things from very long range with teleporting and doom bolts. The Inquisitor definitely does not have as much range, and particularly that Holy Pyre ability is one of her offensive spells, but it has a very short casting range. So I misjudged it there, and then of course there is that casting time on the Inquisitor, which is something the Sorcerer does not have at all. The Sorcerer casts things very quickly, a major advantage that he has. I do have a 2-cap off. I'm actually getting a Manticore, which is unfortunately not a good choice. It's something, you're going to see why it's not a good choice, especially because Technocrat is getting Stormtroopers. So he is blind countering my Manticore. And I got the Manticore just because it is a really good unit overall. But it is especially risky in an Imperial Guard mirror for a reason that you will get to see, if you don't already know what that is. So we do see one of the strengths of this double Sentinel play is that Technocrat can put missile launchers on both of them. Those missile launchers, the crack missiles will do pretty well against the Sentinel, while the frag missiles will do extremely well against the guardsmen. So I don't yet have a Sentinel missile launcher on mine. I do throw down a Manticore strike right there. Does take out quite a few units, or quite a few models, but does not actually wipe anything. The only problem is that now Technocrat knows that I have that Manticore. He knows that I got the Manticore, and since he probably plays Imperial Guard, he probably knows that that was a bad decision on my part. And he's already upgrading to Melt-A-Guns, or the anti-armor kit on his Stormtroopers, that will allow them to throw a Melt-A-Bomb and give them a bunch of Melt-A-Guns, so they will act as AV. Some people actually say that this is one of the best AV units in the game. I don't entirely disagree. I actually don't consider myself qualified enough to say. It's certainly a very good AV unit. With the melted damage, as well as that Melt-A-Gun, as well as the fact that Stormtroopers can infiltrate and become invisible. And we do see right now Technocrat's Stormtroopers coming around the side, dodging a lot of the main force. When I was playing this game, I did not even know that he had Stormtroopers yet. So another Manticore strike goes down, but Technocrat just retreats out of there. And if we notice, Technocrat upgraded to the Inferno pistol, the Excruciators, and the Inquisitorial Mandate. So he's got a fully kitted out Inquisitor and very different warrior options than from what I chose. Wow, those guardsmen getting blasted to pieces by the frag grenades. And I'm going to go over here just because I know it's coming. I remember what happened in the game. And we're going to see it right here. And this is why, basically why a Manticore is not a good choice in an Imperial Guard mirror. Basically, I did not see those stormtroopers coming. Of course, my Manticore was somewhat exposed. And then they just threw that, and it actually levels the stormtroopers to 2. They were just able to sneak around there. They got the Melt-A-Gun off, and it didn't. The Melt-A-Bomb off, and it didn't take many more Melt-A-Shots to finish it off. So now I'm out of 300 requisition and 100 power. As good as the Manticore is in general, it is definitely a lot. It's definitely much more risky in 1v1 than it is in teams. In teams, it's often just too difficult to get to the Manticore, just with the nature of 3v3s. Every part of the map is full, and it's harder to just run a unit around like the way he did with his stormtroopers in a 3v3 than in a 1v1. So my heavy weapon team not doing too badly, doing pretty well in fact. And one of the reasons that is that Imperial Guard actually has some trouble with setup teams, and that's also one of the reasons I bought it. One of the things I knew. In particular, multiple setup teams can be very difficult for the Imperial Guard to deal with. As it is, Technocrat's having enough trouble dealing with one. And although the Manticore is one of the hardest counters to set up teams in the game, we also saw that that's extremely risky in this matchup. Technocrat could get an artillery spotter squad, and that would also be a very good counter to the heavy weapon team, but he has not chosen to get that yet. He does throw down some Promethium, a Hell Fury strike, and he does have that Excruciators, and he's actually using that to lock my guardsmen in place. Assail also does damage over time, and that actually is turning out to be very good, even though that ability is usually thought of as a counter for melee units. Alright, and if you'll notice, I got plasma guns on both of my guardsmen. I'm actually surprised that Technocrat has not gotten plasma guns. Now, Technocrat does have those double Sentinel missile launchers. The crack missiles will be good against my Sentinel, but getting the plasma guns on the guardsmen is actually a better counter to Sentinels than Sentinel missiles. Since the DPS for the plasma guns is quite a bit higher than those Sentinel missiles, and it also gets a bonus. I do upgrade to Purgatus. I'm in Tier 3. I went to Tier 3. I wasn't sure about that choice, but at the same time, I did not quite like my options for Tier 2 tech. I feel like the best I could have gone, maybe, as far as Tier 2 tech goes, was maybe an Assault Kit Stormtrooper squad. And you can tell me in the comments what you think I should get in Tier 2. Obviously, I got that Manticore. It did not quite work out. Ogrins, I don't want to do Ogrins with double Sentinels that can stomp, as well as Stormtroopers still in the field, which will actually do bonus damage to super heavy infantry armor. There is, of course, the Chimera. I could have done that. Maybe I should have done that. I'm not sure. Certainly right now, though, he does... But one of the disadvantages to that is that right now Technocrat does have a lot of AV. In the form of those Stormtroopers, as well as the Sentinels. Now, the Inquisitor, I think she certainly comes very close to going down right here. And those Guardsmen also coming very close to going down as well. Luckily, this heavy weapon team protecting their retreat. I did lose my Sentinel over here, though. So I'm certainly down on units. Technocrat getting a Leman Russ when he already has quite a big unit advantage. I'm getting Kashyyyks. Again, I wasn't quite sure what to get, and I was not doing that well for resources at this point. Certainly not after losing a Manticore. This Inquisitor does some more Purgatus. Does some nice damage when you actually explode that ring of fire. And I'm also just kind of bashing generators over here.
Won't be long, sir. We have a target.
And then one of the things, this is an Imperial Guard mirror. Imperial Guard, as a race, is very different from the other races in the game. Certainly, I would say, I feel like saying it's the most unique race in the game. There are, however, similarities that it shares with many of the other races that Tyranids do not have, such as the way it uses setup teams, having a las cannon. But then there are a lot of things about Imperial Guard that really are very atypical. First of all, not having any kind of jump unit. Having such a range-focused army. And wow, look at how... So I just lost a guardsman squad there. The combination of assail and then those frag missiles. Luckily, I was able to get one of those sentinels down. But now I'm going to be hurting very terribly against the Leman Russ while not really having any counter whatsoever. I do have a Kashkins out, certainly going to do massive damage, but I put plasma guns on them, so they're not going to be able to do a whole lot to this Leman Russ. That being said, I am getting the las cannon on my heavy weapon team. It is a very powerful las cannon, has a high, either a low cooldown time or high refire rate, basically, giving it higher DPS than some of the other las cannons. Although the Chaos las cannon has been buffed quite a bit in the Elite mod. Meltatech Marines, as an AV unit, are also quite good against buildings, so they are bashing generators right here. I think they might, yeah, they'll get this one generator off before they actually retreat out of there and actually take no losses. Heavy weapon team, definitely a bit out of position right there. Not good at all. So somehow I'm kind of keeping up. And again, this was a game where I knew I wasn't quite ready. But I decided to just go ahead with it anyway, playing a race that I was not familiar with against someone playing the same race who actually knows what he's doing with that race. Unfortunately, I'm taking more hits on my power farm, even after just putting those generators down. Luckily, I do have the superior ranged firepower, my guardsmen, and I even get a grenade down as well. Don't hit too many guardsmen, though, so a little disappointing on that end. Kashkin's definitely taking a lot of damage, though. And it actually looks like Technocrat is about to threaten a triple cap on me. Getting my heavy weapon team set up, huge range. Even gets a shot off on the Leman Russ, but the Inquisitor, with the Inquisitorial Mandate. Inquisitorial Mandate does allow the Inquisitor to become invulnerable, also increases her speed so she starts going a lot faster. Helps her to tie up. She can also use it to cap points, especially in very stressful situations. So Technocrat is now putting down a bunker, is definitely going to either make it a, well, he could either make it a repair bunker to support the Leman Russ or a medic bunker to support the guardsmen. I'm actually getting a decap off on the middle victory point, though, just to stall out, give myself some time. And Technocrat is not quite bringing enough firepower to scare my Inquisitor off. She's getting low, but she will get that cap off. Heavy weapon team is set up, but it's taking shots from the Inquisitor, losing models, gets very close to dying, maybe it even will die. No. So lucky to get that heavy weapon team out alive. Certainly very bad play by me to not pay attention to that. I'm actually getting a Leman Russ out of my own. Kashikins throw another grenade, do actually get a hit off on the guardsman, but I'm going to lose another guardsman squad. Certainly comes very close. That Leman Russ has the Executioner cannon, which sort of trades anti-vehicle firepower for area of effect infantry damage, and we see it's doing extremely well against these guardsmen. So I'm clearly on the back foot of things, but I have one of the VPs, so that's keeping me in the game a little bit longer. Now my Leman Russ just is taking some damage, but I know that it's going to have us. It should have a slight advantage over his Leman Russ, just because I did not change to the Executioner. Actually do a rocket run, and a pretty good, so that was not a bad rocket run at all. As you can see, I took out the Sentinel and the Guardsman squad. And first of all, I knew the rocket run was powerful enough to take out a guardsman squad. The Sentinel could have moved out of there, but I actually just had a very instinctive feeling that Technocrat was not going to move his... just had a very instinctive feeling that he was not going to move his his Sentinel out of there, and certainly with it only having half health left, I knew it was actually going to get killed by the rocket run if he did not get his Sentinel out of there, and that's what happened. Lehman Russ in a lot of trouble. I see the Melt-A-Bomb, try to throw a grenade, but unfortunately the Melt-A-Bomb takes out my Lehman Russ. I did not have the repair support fast enough, and I did not see those Stormtroopers coming. So that rocket run, obviously I was saving for that rocket run pretty much. I really like the rocket run. My Inquisitor is idling, she shouldn't do that. But it does have a little bit of, obviously I wasn't using Prometheum strikes or Hell Fury strikes while Technocrat was using that multiple times in the game. I don't think a lot came out of his Hell Fury strikes, and that's one of the reasons why I don't use it. I don't think it's a good global. Rocket Run, though, does have a lot of potential to wipe units. Especially, I think it does have some trouble wiping some of the stronger units like Tactical Marines, Chaos Space Marines, but certainly Guardsmen, it will take them out no problem. And many of the other regular infantry squads in the game, Dire Avengers, Hormagaunts, Howling Banshees, Sluggas, Shootas, you can wipe multiple squads of those. One of the best I've done with the Rocket Run was played against in a team game. A Grey Knight player got 3 Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, and I wiped them all with a single Rocket Run. Alright, so the Inquisitor is coming in here a little bit solo. He's moving around with his tank and with his Stormtroopers. And the Inquisitor solo, I expect to lose to the Castricans. The Castricans doing a lot of damage, but now this is this is Technocrat's Rocket Run, and right there we just saw the power of the Rocket Run to kill units. As it is, only the Valkyrie that drops those rockets only goes twice. It only took 1 strafe from that Valkyrie to take out my Guardsman. It does it twice, but only 1 was necessary to take out my Guardsman. The second one missed entirely, so, and it had nothing else to shoot at, but I mean I lost a Guardsman squad out of it, from full health even. Replacing it with another Castrican. Those Castricans, new unit in the Elite mod, Elite Tier 3 ranged infantry, seems to double up a little bit, or even triple up on Guardsmen and Stormtroopers, all having fairly similar functionalities. Some people say they're too good. They might be. I got them. I wasn't quite sure what else to get, and I'm actually putting Meltaguns on this second Stormtrooper squad as a secondary, as another AV source. Now this Lehman Russ, as much as it will destroy that regular infantry, it's not doing that good against the Inquisitor, and that actually allowed me to capture that point just straight up under fire. Now Technocrat put his units in the bunker, but that's not a great idea. He does rig his bunker to blow, but I'm throwing grenades to destroy it, and I'm shooting at the units inside, and they're taking damage. Now here's the interesting thing that I do. He puts all of his units inside the bunker. I'm actually targeting the bunker with my las cannon, and I actually wipe one of Technocrat's squads out of that. So one of the ways to deal with an Imperial Guard bunker is not just to use anti-garrison, but to use just straight up to destroy the bunker. Most of the time, destroying a building is not practical to deal with garrisoned units, just because most of the ambient buildings that you see on maps like Green Tooth Gorge have something like 2,500 hit points. The bunker has 500 by default and 750 when upgraded. Now that's not bad, but it's low enough that destroying a bunker is a practical way of dealing with garrisoned units. So I actually just turned the heavy weapon team on the bunker, started shooting it, and I think after like 2 shots that bunker was destroyed. And of course, any unit that's inside of a bunker will instantly get wiped if, and that goes for not just a bunker but any building. Any unit that's inside of a building will get wiped. So it's now a 2-cap. Technocrat had a lot of losses. I actually did not realize how well I was doing in this game. And certainly I've been on the back foot of things. Clearly I'm very low on VPs. Technocrat definitely inflicted losses a lot earlier and he probably also just had the confidence advantage. At least with me playing a race that I don't normally play, and then playing in a mirror. I haven't been feeling too bad about trying to play Imperial Guard against races like Space Marine and such, but certainly this is a little bit different. And I'm going to take out another one of Technocrat's Leman Russes. I actually used my resources to get a late-game Stormtrooper squad, and it certainly seems like a curious choice, and I actually felt a little unsure about that choice as well. It seemed kind of weird to me. Almost got that Guardsman off, but before I could do Hammer of the Witches on that Guardsman, I got hit by Hammer of the Witches from Technocrat's Inquisitor. So, and at this point, this is probably going to be the game for Technocrat. Does push me off the field. I was keeping up fairly well in a lot of ways, but he pushes me off the field. He's getting this middle VP. He's going to get a cap on this VP as well, and I don't think there's really enough time for me to deal with all of that. I mean, it's taking just some firepower to get that Inquisitor out of there, and then I need to bring all of my units over to basically to start capping, and I don't think there's enough time. And again, I need my heavy weapon team to move up so that I can threaten the entire area of that Leman Russ, but the victory points have already counted down. So I was actually doing better in this game than I originally thought. But Technocrat definitely had superior knowledge of the race, and that gave him a bit of an advantage. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.